Yo, Aeon, what's up, dude?
Yo, what's up?
Not much. Alright, we're gonna not jump into ranked. We're just gonna jump into. You want just East Coast?
I pick both.
Pick both. Alright.
Both is good.
Okay, we're gonna hop into some casual twos, and so we got a handful of questions for you today. First of all, how was your day?
It's good. What's the gym today? Getting swole.
Getting swole,
Getting
swole for those e-girls. I like it. I like it.
I'll just agree with you because that's how it's gonna go.
All right, my dude. Okay, so first question on the list is, what do you think the Compadres can improve on for next season?
Personally, I'd like to see us play more as a team. We had a lot of solo plays last season. It did contribute to some of our successes, but it also kind of didn't help us in the long run as we played better teams.
Okay.
Yeah.
As you can see, Aeon's insane. He just made the first team we played forfeit with 1 goal. If you could change one thing about your gameplay, what would it be and why?
If I could change one thing about my gameplay, I would say my consistency. I've lacked consistency through my whole come up through the Rocket League scene.
Okay.
And if I had consistency, I think that it would easily push me over to the top into RLCS. But until I get there and to be consistent, I think that I'll stick where I'm at.
Okay, and do you think you have like any ideas of how you could improve on that other than just playing a ton, or?
Playing more would definitely help, but I'd say not being so hard on myself when I mess up.
Okay.
Especially taking my mistakes more to heart, but just learning from them more and not being mad at them.
Okay. That's a good way to look at it. Definitely want to be in your best mental health, and beating yourself up won't help with that for sure. What traits do you attribute to your successes?
Well, there are a few. I'd say one of the main ones I'd say that attributes to my success is probably my ability to learn. Throughout my time, I've been under a few good players in my time. Stev, to name one of them, Kevpert, and Nomad as well as Moses and Astro now. But they definitely taught me how to learn from the game, definitely. And I think that really allows me to take my game to the next level.
Okay.
And then I'd say there's another one, and also my perfectionism, or being a perfectionist. I don't like when things don't go my way, and this is kind of leads back into the other question, but being a perfectionist, I like everything to be perfect. All my hits need to be placed well, powerful, as well as my shots. So I'd say that's definitely one of them that has led to my success in Rocket League.
That makes sense. And do you think, so in terms of being a perfectionist, do you think that you practice enough and work on these things that you want to get better at?
At the moment, no, because it's the off season, but I know when it becomes closer to the RLS season, I will definitely be practicing as much as I can to get better.
Okay. Ideally, how many hours do you want to put into practicing? Like, do you think there's too much you can put into practice, or do you think like the more the merrier?
Too much, there is so much is too much, and I believe that if you have quality hours, that you don't need as many, quality over quantity.
Okay.
So I'd say for me around 60 to 80 hours is usually where I like to stay of quality hours. Anything beyond that just doesn't seem to help me very much.
Oh my god, I'm almost insane. I'm potato. Okay. Next question. Pull this up here. In terms of gameplay, what are some of your strengths?
Most people know, if they know me, that they know I'm very consistently rotating, and I like to stay adaptable to the team. I'd say those two just lead to me being able to play with almost anybody, and that has definitely led me to be very consistent as I play most people in most teams.
So, as far as consistency goes, you'd say you're consistent in terms of adapting to playing with almost anyone, but with consistency being an issue, with consistency being an issue you want to work on, you're talking in terms of mechanics then?
I'd say more mechanical consistency. My rotations seem to be fairly clean for the most part. But when it comes to mechanics, I find that that's really where I struggle the most.
Would it be more ground game or just passing and shooting?
No, I'd say both.
Okay.
I can always be getting better in the ground and in the air.
There's always room for improvement.
Always.
Oh, there is a Fortnite thing on my overlay. Give me just a second here. Okay, what was the most memorable moment of last season?
I got two answers to this question. As a team, I'd absolutely say making RLRS was a huge accomplishment for the team, as we made a team really, really late.
I'd say it was pretty late. What was it, like 2 days before signups closed?
It was 2 days, definitely. But as a player, my most memorable moment from the season was definitely the series against Manhattan. I'm pretty sure that was the best series I'd played all season, and I was very happy with my performance for once.
Is that just because you were consistent with your mechanics for the whole series, or?
Very consistent. And we also won Series 3-0, which was very clutch in the for standings and placement in RLRS.
Okay, that's awesome, man. Are you looking forward to next season? Well, obviously.
Absolutely.
What are you looking forward to about next season?
Next season, I'd say next season I'm really looking forward to pushing for top 2. I know it's doable as we get better as a team and as we work more on our mistakes from this season. I'm definitely looking forward to hopefully making top 2 and making the promotion journey and hopefully making RLRS.
Alright, so what teams do you think will perform the best in the finals?
In the RLRS promotion tournament?
Yes.
My opinion, I'd say Rogue will most likely stay in RLCS with Allegiance, and I'd say Bread having the most, being the closest. So I'd say whoever wins Allegiance versus Bread that'll definitely make the difference in who makes back into RLCS.
Okay. Alright. And going back to earlier, what traits do you attribute to your failures?
I definitely am way too hard on myself sometimes. Especially, it really inhibits my ability to learn. There's also another one. I'd say my lack of motivation at times. That has really led to me, like, slacking off and not putting in the work necessary to be at my peak performance during this season. That is definitely the biggest one.
And so in terms of mental game, how mentally challenging would you say that RL is? In terms of just how much mental effort you need to put into the game?
Mentally, as a player, it really depends on what environment I'm in. In ranked, I take it a little bit more relaxed. A little bit more lenient on how I play. But in tournaments, I'd say as much as I can at the moment. As much energy as I can to putting into focusing and playing as well as I can that'll be always how it is. Especially in RLRS games.
Oh my god, I'm insane. Great pass.
Sure.
Alright. Do you do any like mental training, like meditation or anything to help with that?
In the past couple of weeks, I've been working on the Mac program by Walden. Just occasionally when I have time and when I'm feeling motivated to do mindfulness training, I do a bit.
That is a great program. I did it, probably 2 years ago, and it helped me a ton, for sure.
Definitely.
How pleased are you with the Compadres' performance, given that you guys are a brand new team this season, and what factors added to the success of the team?
Considering how new of a team we were to RLRS, I'd say that the results were good, but they could have been better, of course. I think definitely that early on it was rough as we were all getting used to each other, but I think as as we push through the season. I'd say Moses' ability to adapt and my ability to adapt made it a lot easier on Astro to be able to do what he pleases around the field. And that definitely gave us a lot of opportunities on the offensive side as he was able to create for both me and Moses in the end. So we would have a very good offense in the end.
We'll focus up there as I try to not bad shot. Alright, Kameki has a question. What's your question? Go ahead and give him a sec. What are your goals moving forward in your Rocket League career?
In my Rocket League career, I always thought that I'd take it as far as I could and then just play casually. So far, I mean, I've definitely pushed a lot farther than I ever thought I would come, and a lot further, but I want to see what I can do in the future, especially moving into maybe making RLCS next season, or any other team, so decide that I'm good enough, maybe. Who knows?
Mm-hmm. So you're taking a year off of school to pursue all this, correct?
Yeah. Before I fully commit to a normal life and going to college and such, I decided that I'd give myself a chance to see how far I could make it in Rocket League before I just kind of played casually, played for fun.
If, so let's say, hypothetically, that you end up going to school and whatnot, what do you think you would major in, aside from gaming and everything?
I'd say computer science. I've always been decently up with technology and have a fair bit of knowledge in computers as it is, so I'd say computer science.
Okay, in terms of your gameplay, what would you say some of your weaknesses are?
In terms of gameplay, I'd say mechanically I'm probably one of the weaker players in RLRS. I don't believe that I put enough time and effort into actually improving my mechanics. I was looking a lot more mentally at the game, especially, mentally at the game. Looking to make my rotations as good as I can be and making my positioning as easy to read for my teammates, but very effective in the games.
Okay. So Kameki wants to know, if you were to go into computer science, would you go into computer software or computer hardware?
Definitely software. Software is I've learned to code a bit, and I've gotten into it a bit, but I was never really into hardware, and it's never really been anything that I've really enjoyed.
That was a great pass. I'm a potato.
And to specify what languages, it would be C++ and Java. I already know this.
C++.
But I would be probably looking into Node.js or Go.
So in terms of just gaming in general, have you ever been competitive in other games?
I've been competitive in 2 other games. The first one was on console. I started around Black Ops 2, and I pushed into wagers leading up until I eventually quit in end of Black Ops 3. And then after that, I tried Counter-Strike for about 1,000 hours. I got pretty good, but I never ended up being able to find a team or push for any ESEA events or leagues. I never really finished or ended up pushing too hard in Counter-Strike.
So looking back to when you first, do you remember when you first started playing Rocket League?
It was mid 2016 when I started. That's when I really did not take the game seriously at all. I just played it for fun with a couple friends, and it was just a game that I kind of enjoyed when I wasn't playing Counter-Strike.
Okay. What like drew you to the game? Was it the fact that your friends were playing it, or was it like, oh, the concept looks interesting, I'll try it out?
Well, my friends definitely got me into it, but in the beginning, I had played soccer in the past, and I was fairly competitive in soccer, and I was a fan of soccer at the time, so they got me into it. After Counter-Strike didn't go very far, I just decided to try and get better at Rocket League, and eventually it ended up in a couple teams, and eventually leading to what it is now.
So you played competitive soccer IRL a while back. Would you say that helped you, like with? Would you say it gave you any advantages coming into Rocket League in terms of being?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It gave me an idea about rotations in the beginning, and it definitely gave me an idea of how to position myself to be most effective as almost any player in the or any position on the field.
All right, chat. Do you guys have any questions for Aeon? While we take a little question break, kind of just relax for a bit. Do you have like an idol that you look up to in the pro scene?
In the pro scene, I'd say I looked up to Squishy in the beginning. Then I realized I didn't like how he rotated, and he was just mostly a mechanical player in my eyes. So I decided, like, I looked more a lot into the Dignitas guys, and I never really found which one I actually liked the best, but I do definitely like Dignitas as a team, and I don't believe they're gonna lose anytime soon.
So you're saying you looked at the Squishy, but then didn't because he was mainly mechanical. So do you have high respect for people who know how to properly rotate and consistently do it?
Absolutely. Any pro in the pro scene that is very rotational, examples being Torment, Gerchi, let's see. I'm not very familiar with the EU scene, but definitely Torment and Gerchi I definitely look up to a lot.
So if you could pick any pros to be on a dream team with, who would it be, and why?
2 players. Do they have to be from different teams, or can they be from the same team?
They could be from the same team. Anyone in the game, any pro,
any pros in the game. Keeping it in North America, the 2 pros that I'd mostly want a team with would be definitely Garrett G and probably JNaps.
Garrett G and JNaps. That's a solid team right there. That is a solid team for sure. Where do you think, in terms of like team chemistry, where do you think you'd fit in with those guys?
Considering both of them are very rotational, but their mechanics are very, very high mechanical players. They're very good mechanical players. I'd say I'd fit in pretty well. Knowing my rotational ability and my developing mechanics, I'd say I'd fit in pretty well with them.
Mm-hmm. Have you ever played with them before in ranked or maybe 6-mans?
I played with Garrett a few times, but JNaps I just run into him in ranked occasionally. But Garrett G I played a couple times. I played a couple times in 6-mans as well as a couple times in ranked.
So what are your thoughts on the Rocket League ranked system? In terms of matchmaking and just the different playlists and whatnot.
I see why they have Grand Champ being very low for the upper echelon of players. I see why the Grand Champ is only 1500, but I would like to see there be maybe another rank or something for only top 100 players that maybe has less queues, but the quality of game is very high. Mm-hmm. I'd like to see it be maybe pros only for region, or just top 100 leaderboards. Leading up to Grand Champ is fine. I don't mind the progression of it and think it's about normal for this type of game, but as soon as you get into the upper 1% of the game, I'd say ranked is almost useless.
You think so?
There's a much to be learned from it.
Is that just because of the skill gap among players that have Grand Champ, or?
I would attribute it more to the meta of how the huge difference between RLCS Pro and high Grand Champ play. As a lot of high grand champs seem to think that going for the ball a lot and being really fast with the ball will get them, will just make them better, and just leads them to go for the ball a lot more than they have to, and just cutting their teammates off in the end. Just comparably to RLCS players who rotate properly, keep proper spacing, and allow for passes to happen in the midfield, there's a huge difference between pro play and Grand Champion play.
So would you say, like, as far as Grand Champs go, that most people think that ball chasing is the meta?
Absolutely. It is meta.
So no trust among teammates then, just like the lower ranks, you could say.
Considering it is ranked, I don't mind how most Grand Champs don't have much trust, but when it comes to actually playing as a team, which this game is supposed to be about team play, I don't like how the meta has developed in that sense. Of ranked especially.
I should have gone for that. Now, shall we hop into some fun questions?
Okay.
So, in terms of Minecraft, what is your favorite modded server and why?
Modded server.
Modded type.
Modded type. My modded. I did not play much modded when I was early on into Minecraft. I never really. I always enjoyed playing with other people more, so I was more into FPS games. But the small amount of modded I did play, I definitely enjoyed Feed the Beast in the beginning. And then there are a couple other mod packs that I enjoyed, mainly including, I think, Mad Pack and.
Gosh.
I'm still trying to think of the names, but I have no idea what they are.
Kameki has a question in the chat, wondering if Adderall is something that would be good to use for a tournament. Not saying that you use it. That is not at all.
I definitely do not. I am not a fan of Adderall, as I've known a few people to take it, and however much focus that you get, I really think it degrades your mental capacity. So I think thinking about the game, it doesn't help at all. But focus-wise, if you struggle with focus, I'd say that it might help you.
You're insane. What an angle. What are your thoughts on Italian food?
Honestly, I don't mind Italian food, but it also depends on what it is. A lot of pasta I don't mind. Pizza, obviously, but there are some pasta dishes that I don't like. I'm not a fan of seafood either.
Not a fan of seafood, so you don't like sushi or anything?
Nope.
What? What do you mean? Have you ever had sushi?
Yeah, I've tried it a few times. Just something about raw fish is just unpleasing.
Now, the real question here. Do you think that Stev should come out of retirement?
If Stev, I've always thought that players in retirement usually don't come out of retirement unless they really want to. But if Stev wants to come out of retirement and put in the work to catch up to every pro or every RLRS player, if he wants to, I'd say go for it.
So looking at Rocket League and like how far it's come and like where it started, and in terms of things that people are doing now compared to what people were doing then, what would you say that Psyonix needs to bring to the game to keep it fresh and to maybe change the meta or the competitive scene?
Changing meta is always going to be rough, but as players get better, the meta will change. Eventually, ball chasing will not work anymore, as the meta will become waiting for those people who are ball chasing to just kind of let the ball go, and they run out of boost eventually. But changing the game, I'd say it would either be making the map bigger and adding another player, I'd say 4v4 is more suited than 5v5. But the map would have to be slightly bigger. There would have to be more boosts. There would have to be about 8 boosts, I'd say. But
do you think raising a boost cap to like 150 or 200 would be needed?
no.
No.
I don't mind 100 boost as long as the ceiling height stays the same. If the ceiling height goes higher, I believe they will have to add more boost, or the cap higher, but as it stands, I don't see them having to add any more boosts than what you already have.
So how important, like out of all the things that come into play when you're in a competitive game, how important would you say that boost management is?
It's a trait that most all pros have down to a science, and I think as RLRS players, it is not something that's looked at as important, but I'd say as a transition into an RLCS player, I think it becomes way more important.
Okay. Now is it more of decision making in terms of like, oh, I'm not gonna go up for this aerial because if I have this boost then I can defend better, or is it more of a rotation thing, like, oh, if I rotate this way I can grab these little pads and maybe this big one if it's available?
I think it's a mix of both. Every situation in Rocket League is different, and that's why I think most people have put as many hours as I have into this game as it is. But I'd say it's a mix of both, definitely. And it also depends on personal preference as well. Some players like to get small boost pads more because they use less boost to position, but some players just, their rotations lead them to bigger boost pad or the capsules more.
Now I've noticed that one thing that I do a lot that has definitely put me out of position is when I rotate, I normally ignore the little boost pads and go for the corners or the mid boosts. Would you say that that's a bad idea? Like, I should focus on grabbing smaller boosts in rotation, or just learning to play without boost would be the way to go?
I'd say if you have 24 boost at any point in time, anything over 24, you should be able to hit almost anything on the field coming at you, including powerful clears. So I'd say incorporate it enough to...
What a touch, dude.
Incorporate it enough to be able to pick up boost pads, but not enough to mess up your rotations as to force you to go for boost pad or small pads.
Alright, and what about demos and bumps with rotation? Do you mainly just go for them when you're rotating out, or will you actually go out of your team rotation to get them in order to set your teammates up for a better play?
Personally, I use them when it's necessary as a first man who is not passing the ball to a teammate. Then I would use a demo, or rotating out I would use a demo. Those are the two times that I think demos are most useful, and they lead you to not be out of position the most amount of time, comparably to just going for demos when there's a guy close to you.
Oh, that was it. I'm glad I didn't block that. Is there anything that you want to say in terms of advice for players who are trying to break into that next tier of rank?
Depending on what rank you are, I'd say for RLRS, really, it's looking at consistency and boost management. Those two are the most important things, I'd say, leading up into getting into RLRS that you could focus on. If you consistently can out-rotate a team, out-shoot a team, out-pass a team, you really put yourself in a great position to win the game.
Alright, well I think that is going to be it as far as questions go. Thank you for taking the time to come and do this, and hopefully next season you guys make it into RLCS. I know that you have the potential to get there for sure. Oh, hang on, Kameki's got one. What does Aeon think of the Rocket League Renegades tournament?
I'd say it's a step in the right direction. I like where Cyanix is doing. I like them having tournament organizers that are not big, have tournaments for people that are not pros. I think it's a step in the right direction. Do I think it's a final solution? Absolutely not.
Okay. What else do you think that we need to do to keep going in that direction?
Considering that there is RLCS and very few minor tournaments that lead up into RLCS, the offseason is a very long time. And RLRS players have, what, maybe 2 months, 3 months out of the year that they're actually competing against other RLRS teams. I think that's a really bad idea, as it's not sustainable. In other esports, we have like League of Legends, we have academy teams. In CSGO, we have academy teams that also fall under orgs who can pay them so they are able to live, but they're also to be able to compete in lower level leagues as well as minor tournaments that allow them to also make money. So I think we need a lot more minor tournaments that are either hosted by Sonics or other tournament organizers. I mean, such as Face It, ESL, MLG, ESEA, and such.
Do you think that Psyonix needs to have academy teams as well?
Psyonix doesn't need academy teams. They don't need to pay for them. They need orgs to be able to support the academy teams. So revenue sharing should, hopefully, I hope it's in the works.
Me too, man. They need it. And honestly, it'd be super cool to have in the game. Be able to support your favorite team from the field.
Well, yeah, having even decals, like, it doesn't have to be anything special.
Or like a flag, honestly. Like little antenna.
Yeah. Anything we can do to support more orgs coming into the game is good.
Alright, I think that was the final question. Stev, Aeon already talked about you coming out of retirement. It's in the works. So, thanks for coming out, man, and we'll hope to have you on again.
Yep, for sure. Thanks for having me.